So this decision is not sitting well with everyone.
Absolutely. They said that they were alarmed by finding out this review was underplaced or underway, I should say. But this really underscores a broader tension that I've seen with Congress and the White House. They feel like they have not been looped in and notified when President Biden has made major military decisions, especially in the Middle East. But here you really have President Biden taking a step as we see Israel now going forward with this invasion of Rafah, despite the administration's concerns about the potential human suffering that could be caused to the more than 1 million refugees who are now there.
And of course, because of the concern around civilian life, the president is facing a great deal of domestic political pressure on the left, in addition to these pressures I was just speaking about on the right. He also has been receiving a lot of pressure from the right on the issue of the border, especially after the bipartisan deal that he negotiated with leaders in the Senate on the border fell through. There has been a lot of speculation that perhaps he might take executive action. We're learning this evening that he could announce tomorrow tweaks to asylum law. Akayla, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so one thing to note is this is not this big executive order that we could expect or the administration is still weighing to take on the border. This is a much smaller scale regulation that would basically impact the way that asylum seekers are screened, basically screening people for potential national security risk or safety risk that could expedite deportation by the time that they are in the U.S. So this is going to affect a relatively small group of people. But again, the administration has said they're going to take every route they possibly can to work on this issue. Now that, of course, that Senate bipartisan deal has stalled and pretty much fizzled out in the Senate.
Well, speaking of fizzling out, Akayla, we also had President Biden today visiting the key swing state of Wisconsin on the site where a project that was supposed to be launched by Foxconn to invest in the state fizzled out during the Trump administration after it was much heralded. The president was there today highlighting an investment that Microsoft is making, $3.3 billion into a facility there. So on the one hand, he's talking about manufacturing in the U.S. On the other, he's kind of poking his rival in November.
Yeah, he's definitely taking a poke at President Trump's legacy here. This was a site of where this Foxconn facility was supposed to be. Now it's Microsoft investing $3 billion in a potential artificial intelligence data center. And this is really Biden's way of sort of trying to get at some of the resentment that there is in middle America that really Trump ran on in 2016 and was successfully was able to tap into in that region. And he's really touting himself as this union guy, someone who supports manufacturing and who believes his investment and his agenda has really supported in the region. But time will only tell if we see this Microsoft facility and so many facilities across the country actually come to fruition as well.
All right, Bloomberg's Akayla Gardner running us through the many stories we are following in regard to the White House today. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, we're also following Congress as they're pushing the deadline for the FAA reauthorization down the road a week. The House voting this evening on that extension before leaving town for the weekend. Earlier, I spoke with Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia, who voiced optimism about this bill's ultimate passage.
I have been especially focused on the issue of bolstering our workforce pipeline. We have a shortage of pilots, aviation mechanics, other people who work in the industry, and we are barely pulling from all of our human talent. So I have provisions in the bill that address that along with other things. And I remain very hopeful that we'll get all of this over the finish line before the deadline come Friday.
Well, maybe that in particular isn't going to happen. Let's bring in Jack Fitzpatrick, who covers Congress for Bloomberg Government. So, Jack, he thought this could get done by the Friday deadline of May 10th. The House says, nope, let's deal with it by next Friday. Why? Did the timing just not work that this would have been able to make it through both chambers in time?
The timing didn't work. They were trying to negotiate a unanimous consent agreement in the Senate and allow for votes on certain amendments that some members wanted. And you can hold a vote quickly in the Senate if everybody agrees to bypass some procedural steps. As of right now, they seem to be lining up those procedural steps that would allow for a vote as soon as maybe Wednesday or Thursday of next week. So if you don't have unanimous consent, you can get something done in the Senate as long as you have 60 votes, but you can't really do it that quickly. Yeah. The House also, I think this is a sign that we're getting toward campaign season and people are a little tired of legislating. The House is taking their last votes of the week. There was the idea that the Senate would jam the House, send this over to the House and say, we're leaving town, you've got to pass it. Now the House is voting voting on or about to pass a 1-week extension and leaving town, which is essentially the House jamming the Senate and saying, we're going to take another week. Even if you send us this passed FAA bill, if you miraculously get it done soon, we'll be gone. So they're looking to take another week just because the Senate only moves slowly if everybody is on board very, very quickly.
Well, Jack, you mentioned how maybe there's some tire in legislating because it is campaign season. And because campaign season is really upon us now, there was talk about how this is the last legislative vehicle or train to leave the station, if you will. So a lot of this is people trying to attach amendments to this legislation, right? Do we have an idea ultimately which of those amendments could get through?
Well, there was a conversation about a lot of different amendments in an attempt to get some important things on there. But now, if you don't get unanimous consent for all of those amendments, you might end up with virtually nothing. The members who backed the tax bill that had the child tax credit measure and other things like that the House passed a while back, for a while wanted to attach that to the FAA bill. There's a fight over an extra 5 slots landing at DCA airport. But if you don't get a unanimous consent agreement to set the stage for these amendments and those amendments, and you just go through the processing of the procedural steps to get to a final vote, you may not get very many amendments at all. So the train appears to be leaving the station without many opportunities for extra legislation because, again, there was this mad scramble to attach more ornaments onto the final Christmas tree. So it looks like there are not going to be many major amendment votes after that major scramble.
Okay, so we'll see when this train ultimately leaves the station next week. Meanwhile, one train that seems like it's going to stay parked is this motion to vacate train that Marjorie Taylor Greene was trying to be conductor of. Earlier today, I asked Congressman Andy Barr whether her effort to vacate the Speaker's chair was as good as dead, and this is what he told me.
Certainly on pause and mercifully so. The last thing that any conservative, self-described conservative should do 6 months ahead of a very consequential presidential election is to vacate the Speaker's office. That would be so counterproductive and certainly not good for the country.
And certainly we've heard messaging similar to that from the former president, Donald Trump. We know that Marjorie Taylor Greene has spent a good deal of time in meetings with Mike Johnson this week. Is she backing off? And if so, what was this all for?
I mean, the answer to the latter question may have been attention. It can politically pay for a hardline conservative to get the spotlight, but in the context of the broader House Republican Conference, their plans for the election, there weren't a lot of members on board here. So she grabbed the spotlight for a little while. The Speaker insisted there was no negotiating happen. This wasn't about getting something in particular onto the bill, the FAA bill, or other negotiations from his point of view. It really has fizzled, and I think that answered it from Congressman Barr, that doing this in the spring of a presidential election year is a lot messier even than it was when they ousted Kevin McCarthy in an off year when they're not getting onto the campaign trail.